diverse perspectives. The university is dedicated to protecting and promoting freedom of expression, provided that it does not disrupt the event or compromise anyone's safety. We kindly ask all participants to respect these principles so we can foster a productive and inclusive town hall that benefits everyone. Thank you. We also ask that unless you are the media, you can see in the back, please do not film this event. There will be plenty more town halls in the future, and you are more than welcome to attend those. Additionally, I am to point out the exits in case of an emergency. So there's two in the back. And Congressman, I will give you the floor for the opening remarks.
Okay, this is Mike on. So first of all, I have a little bit of laryngitis and my voice has been coming in and out for about 10 days. So bear with me, I'm not going to be able to talk very loud tonight. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate everyone showing up and participating. Whoever's in charge might want to turn this mic down just a hair. But, you know, we're both in Congress and we've gotten a lot of advice not to hold town halls because they're getting rowdy. We both chose to be here because, one, I think it's my job to stand up here and talk to you, but also I think we can do this. I think in Utah we can have tough conversations. Thank you. I appreciate all of you showing enough faith in that to be here tonight. I hope we can set a high standard for the rest of the country of how we can talk about really hard issues. So I'm not going to do more of an introduction than that. I'll let Mike have his time so we can get to questions, but just thank you for being here.
Good evening, everyone. I'll just give a quick introduction to Congressman Kenmedy. Congressman Mike Kenmedy is the newest member of Utah's House of Representatives. He's been in 74 days now, Congressman, but yeah, a little bit of a whirlwind, and represents the 3rd district. And so, as you all know, a very large district, similar to Congressman Maloy's district, and similar to where we're trying to get as quick as we can. Thank you. Congressman Kenmedy, he currently serves on the Natural Resources Committee, Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and Science, Space, and Technology Committees in the House. He is the only family doctor in Congress. The other doctors are all specialists. And he held successful practice for 25 years before being elected. He was practicing medicine as recently as December of this last year, so all the way up until the time that he had to give up his practice to serve in Congress. It's one of the many ethical roles they have. And so he really is dedicated to serving everyone, and he is complimented by his wife, Katrina, and his 8 children and 9 grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you. It's really great to be here. Can you hear me okay in the back? Does the microphone work all right? And I spent my life, my adult life, and frankly my young life, when I was a child, working on complicated things, trying to figure out how the world works. And I'll just speak honestly, I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful to be with Celeste. And by the way, we're just Mike and Celeste, I think, unless, I mean, you should call her the Mighty Congresswoman if you want to, but you can just call me Mike. But frankly, I'd rather just sit across the dinner table with each one of you individually and just talk about these complicated issues. Because with my patients, my job, and for my overall circumstance, my job is to try to figure out where we can all move forward together in the most beneficial way for everybody, recognizing not everybody's going to get everything wrong, but because we both represent about 800,000 people, it makes it really difficult to take a walk on a mountain trail and talk about things for an hour. That makes it difficult to sit down and have dinner with you and talk about the things. So this is a format. I hope it's a useful format, as Celeste talks about. I think we can do this in a useful fashion without disruptions. We want to hear from you. We also want to you to have an opportunity to hear from us. There's going to be disagreement. I appreciate my police officer friends for being here to make sure we're all civil and kind of working together. Disruptions, I have 8 children, so I know what shenanigans and disruptions look like. If it becomes dysfunctional, we may have to ask other people to help us with that. But I'll just ask all of us to work together so that we can come to an understanding with one another, even if we can't come to an agreement. So thanks for being here, and we're grateful to get the standby list in as well. Sorry for the empty seats for our intentions, but this room is full, and so our staff are working.
So as you see, there's a lot of people here, so because of the size, we're going to use something called slide launch. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. But this is how it works. You can scan the QR code, and many of you have already done this. Submit a question, and then vote on the questions that you would like answers to. They'll all be up here. At the top are the most popular ones, the bottom least popular, and the congressman and congresswoman will just go right down the list, and you can see them all up there. So we'll go ahead and begin with the first question. Oh, hold on 1 second. Okay, I'll read the first question while we get that back up on the screen. I'm sure some of you saw it, but the first question is, if the current administration continues to defy court orders, will you commit to call for articles of impeachment to protect our republic's checks and balances?
I'll go first on this one. We'll just take turns answering questions first and second. I mean, the premise of the question is, if this administration continues to defy court orders, I get asked all the time, you know, this administration's moving fast. The executive shouldn't be as powerful. What is Congress doing to check the administration? And the first thing I want to say is welcome to the party. I ran my first race on the three branches around a balance. The executive is too powerful. So, but watch the process play out a little bit. It was 2 months ago today that we inaugurated a new president, and the courts are acting on issues, and Congress is acting. We have institutions that check each other. Doesn't always happen overnight, but it does happen. It's served us well for almost 250 years. So my response to everybody, by the way, raise your hand if this is your top question. I do want the audience to feel like you're participating. Okay, it's the top question I get asked everywhere I go. So I don't think we need to impeach the president. I just think we need to watch the process play out, watch the three branches. I can't yell over you, so I'll just wait. Watch the process play out.
He's breaking the law now.
And the question was, will you commit to articles of impeachment
And I
if
just
he
said,
continues to defy court orders?
already defied. No. I just said I'm not going to impeach the
Thank
president.
you.
Boo! If you want me to answer questions, I'll answer questions. If you want to yell, you can yell, but we can't do both at the same time.
We're going to do both at the same time.
People are extremely angry.
I recognize that, and those feelings are real.
Are you not?
Things are changing right now.
Are you?
I will wait.
It's an issue.
Stop breaking the law.
I'm here to answer your questions.
No, you're not. You're not.
Thank you.
Until the Supreme Court is not obeyed.
Democrat president either. So, we have a process here. I will answer the questions on the board. If you keep yelling, I'm not going to answer yelled out questions because we have a process. No, I'm not going to try to impeach the president. Yes, I think Congress has a responsibility to check the executive branch, and we will when they're out of line. Just because you don't like what they're doing doesn't mean they've broken any of the laws.
Can we have law enforcement come up and actually, if somebody was talking about that, then we need to brought up, we can actually have a conversation. People that are attempting to disrupt this law, the Congress can't speak. And if you find those people, you will escort them out in a gentle fashion so that you can continue with your time.
They came down and said, will you defy court orders? They've said no. If they defy court orders, we're in a different world, and that's a separate question, and we'll talk about it here.
So, thank you for your comments. Actually, we're here to listen to the person whose question was submitted, and that gentleman over there, Mr. Police Officer, seems to have a problem with outbursts, so if you just pay attention to him.
police would like to escort me out for being disruptive. I thought we came here to have a conversation.
Shame on you.
So, part of the question is did anybody defy court orders? And I can already expect the eruption of dismay coming from you. If there was defiance of a court order, absolutely somebody should be held to account. If those are we know that this is how that works. However, how do we determine that in a non-banana republic fashion? We actually go through the process to do an investigation. You believe court orders were defied. I'm not sure, and I'm waiting for the evidence to come out, although I'm sure you believe the evidence is clear. And then high crimes and misdemeanors is a high standard for impeachment. Apparently, impeachment is anytime we disagree with anybody. And that can go I don't agree with that. The standard by the founders was set up high. It was set a bar that was set high for a purpose. Impeachable offenses are an important thing for us to be considerate of, and we don't go impeaching everybody for every disagreement.
Congressman, can I respectfully ask?
Have you enforce the civility of this crowd?
Congressman,
we're going to have a conversation.
Can I respectfully ask a follow-up question? Can I? What's that? Yeah, I know. I just want to ask a follow-up question.
We can do this. We can answer questions. We've got more time. We're going to sit here and answer. But I do ask the crowd to let us answer questions because there are people here who want to hear the answers. And frankly, I want to give you answers. That's why we're here. If everyone can just stay with us for a minute.
Preserve Congress's power as an equal branch of government to the executive branch. What are you doing to preserve Congress's power as an equal branch of government to the executive branch?
Actually, Congressman Maloy already said the executive branch is already too powerful. They have wielded strong power for many years. And Congress has defrayed and deferred its authority to the executive branch. If you want a Democrat president and have them very powerful, then that might be a good thing for you. And now we have a Republican president who's executive orders. The executive orders are not a way for us to run a country. We should be running it as our Constitution is defined. Article 1 for a specific reason. And those Article 1 powers, we codify law, and then we move forward with that codified law, and it's actually really hard to pass a law. It takes a lot of work. You have 435 representatives, 100 senators, and part of the thing about doing the job, thank you, Mr. Albers, for your exclamation there, but for doing the job, it takes a consensus. It takes time for us to build that consensus. And in fact, I'll just say with the executive orders, we are on a routine basis giving President Trump and his team feedback on what we're hearing from people like you. And we're happy to hear from people like you about the issues of the day. The reality is we, Congress, over 50 and 60 years, have given, in my opinion, too much power to the president. And as a result, the president can do things that Congress has actually authorized them to do. So I'm invested, and I'll just summarize this and then turn it over to my senior member here, is I'm invested in making Washington, D.C. smaller and Utah bigger. I trust our local communities and our state.
I thought that was the idea. Right now, we're actually not going to like me for this. I do think we need the agencies to be smaller. I think that was the wrong way to do it. So I called and talked to the White House about that, and that's a pretty big deal. The other concrete example I have for you is with the CR we just passed. I heard somebody say, what about the CR? That CR is a continuation of the budget we negotiated last year with Chuck Schumer and the Biden White House. So the programs you're worried about disappearing are funded through the end of the year. Every program that was funded last Congress is still funded through the end of the year, unless Congress acts to change that. That's not a small check.
One of the things I'd add to that is the CR was a bipartisan effort. Actually, we had bipartisan in the House and bipartisan in the Senate. And whether you agree with that or not, is I think, and actually I appreciate the sentiment of the crowd, we need regular order budgeting. I think these continuing resolutions are a terrible way for us to fund the government. We are $37 trillion in debt, and I am also, for the sake of my children and grandchildren, very invested in making sure we get to regular order budget. And I'm not voting for a continuing resolution again unless it's a regular order budget. We need to get regular order budget. That's
tax the rich.
Go ahead. Next question.
What will you do to oppose cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security?
Do I go first on this one?
I'll get you that. That'd be fine. I love Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Actually, part of the thing that I hear a lot of fear mongering. I hear misrepresentation, and I hear outright lies about what Congress is doing and what our intent and focus is. And frankly, people that do that should be embarrassed for the misappropriation. Anytime. So thank you for Mr. Outburst to my left now. Apparently you can't control yourself. I think it's pretty sad. Yeah, anyways. So I've cared for people with Medicaid for 25 years. As an example, Medicare is the same thing. I know, so Medicaid is a real thing, I think, for some of you. Probably some of you are on Medicaid and some of you are on Social Security. We all know people in these programs. The idea that a family doctor who knows by name people that have received Medicaid want to see that program damaged is nonsense. I'll say to you, I am also very focused on making sure whatever we do to preserve the financial stability of this country, it's not going to be on the backs of the most vulnerable citizens of our society. And that's so for those things, part of the thing, and this is where I could go into the weeds on this. Congresswoman Maloy is amazing. I want to hear from her as well. But there's a Medicaid that can get waivers. Various states can apply for waivers to the president and to the executive branch to get waivers. Right now, Medicaid, which was intended for pregnant women and disabled, as well as elderly, and the impoverished, that's how Medicaid started over 50 years ago. That's the foundation of it. And now it's paying for piano lessons and swim classes. So when it comes to Medicaid, I am very invested in rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, and making sure that any opportunities for us to improve that system for the people that it was intended. But I know personally people, and I can think of their names right now. These are my patients. My next rhetorical question to you is, where in our budget resolution does it talk about cutting Medicaid?
You can't get it from anywhere else.
The resolution that we did last year. You won't find cuts anywhere. What you will find is in Congress. And actually, a lot of people can't hear the answer because of the yells. So I'll just keep yelling and then you're just But when it comes to that, the reality is that we, myself, and Congressman Celeste, officer, could you handle this fellow and make sure that he's I'm trying to answer the question, but when it comes to Medicaid, it should function in the way that it should, and I am very invested in making sure that program works. And so when it comes to that, I haven't seen anybody that in a real, as a matter of fact, President Trump on the campaign trail as well as after, he has said already to us as his conference, and also we are expecting him as our president, that cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security off the table. So the community and assistance are certainly something like that. So that's what I'm working on.
Okay, so I'm going to try to answer this one too. I can't answer the question if other people are talking over me though. So, Social Security, we can't even touch with reconciliation. So the one bill we're working on right now, that people keep talking about, the $880 billion in cuts in energy and commerce, that's reconciliation. In the rules of reconciliation, you cannot touch Social Security. So that's just all it is.
What are you going to do?
If you're reading that we're going to touch Social Security, that's just not true. President Trump and Congress have both said we're not touching Medicare. So
Liars.
What about Elon Musk? Who's stopping him?
So that means $880 billion in cuts that the Energy and Commerce Committee has to find. That's where everyone assumes that Medicaid's going to get cut. That bill isn't even written yet. So if somebody's telling you confidently that they know what's going to happen to Medicaid, they're trying to wind you up on something. No one in Congress that I've talked to has talked seriously about any cuts to Medicaid. In fact, there are a lot of doctors in Congress who are really fighting against any cuts to Medicaid.
Absolutely, myself included.
So stay engaged. There is no resolution. The budget resolution tells me.
resolution you just did.
I'm breaking my own rule here by responding to you, and I'm going to regret it. But the Energy and Commerce Committee is told to go find $880 billion in cuts. It doesn't say what they are. Give them a minute.
You can only get that amount from those.
Energy and Commerce touches a lot of areas of policy.
And the fascinating thing for us, and I'll just say, this is where it all, and I appreciate the sentiment, and I share the sentiment, is that we want to make sure these programs work for our most vulnerable. And I hope you agree that these programs actually work. But you know what comes next with this, the reconciliation process, is we have to get enough votes out of Congress. That's on the House and the Senate side, and we need 60+ votes in the Senate for us to, 51 for that, okay, thank you for that reminder, I forgot about that part. But the reality is there's still, as Speaker Johnson has said about this process, is the ball's been kicked off in the football game, because there's still so much to be done. And if somebody is telling you that we are actually cutting, they're fear-mongering, because we're looking at all options, which any thoughtful person should. But I'm already telling you sincerely that I'm invested in doing my best to make sure that none of these programs are damaged for these most vulnerable people that receive it.
So let me ask you this. Raise your hand if you're concerned about the deficit. Tax the rich! Raise your hand. Okay, raise your hand if you want to tax the rich.
Yes!
The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act actually has a higher rate on the rich, so we're there.
Boo!
Raise your hand if you think we can get out of the deficit without cutting any government programs.
Yes! Tax the rich!
We have some really tough choices to make. I mean, that's the reality. We have to make tough choices. And, as my colleague said, we have to make tough choices that result in bills that can actually pass.
You choose your pockets over people.
100%!
Look, I have a lot of sympathy for the issues that you're here talking about. That we are not going to get out of the, fine, I have empathy too. We are not going to get out of the situation we're in financially without all of us feeling some pain. And I know people are feeling
What about the billionaires?
The National Park Service produces more revenue than it costs to run. With 5 national parks in Utah and the money from tourism, why not speak out against these cuts?
So I also love our national parks. I appreciate that enthusiasm. And I already told you before we got to this question that I did speak out against that, so thank you for that applause.
We both want to make sure the national parks work.
But even the national parks have got to be efficient and wise with the dollars they get. If park staff is doing good work and their budgets are efficient, then we should keep them. I agree with that. But there's no reason not to look at it. There's no reason not to evaluate the parks.
Where's the proof of efficiency?
Okay. Maybe it is. We're looking at it. I said I don't think they should have been. Yeah, go ahead.
So my family and I enjoyed. So I was born in Michigan. We had 8 children. We didn't have much money, and so we always went to the national parks and actually camped on BLM land because it was just a great experience. And people from all over the world come to our national parks. And in fact, I, along with Congresswoman, have fed information back. In my case, I don't call the White House because I'm just a freshman, but I call my speaker and I call my majority leader, and we talk about these things because in the state of Utah, the reality is across in the state of Utah, everybody that comes to our national parks needs to have a top-notch experience. Because if they have a bad experience, then they're all going to go home and complain to their family and friends and never come back. So that's a terrible thing for Utah. It's a terrible thing for them and our country. So for us to make sure that our national parks work, we've already seen the response is that they fired a bunch of people, and I can explain more about how suppose that happened to the contradiction of what Jones was intending, and then actually rehired all those people back plus extras. So now we respond to feedback from people like us, because we believe the gems of our state, the primary gems are people, and the secondary gems are land, including the national park. So I'm also very focused on making sure those national parks work, and we actually have seen that with the rehiring of these people.
Yeah, okay, so somebody asked me earlier if I would feel differently if we were talking about a Democrat president, so I feel like turnabout's fair play. Do any of you know how many federal employees Bill Clinton fired? I started very shortly after the Clinton era, and I can tell you that the shock and the upset in the federal workforce was still very much there when I started. It was not new. So, if you want to be angry about firing federal employees, you can be angry about firing federal employees. I'm not telling you. We have had to go through this before. We didn't balance the budget. We didn't balance the budget without shrinking the federal workforce. We're going to have to make really hard decisions.
Next question.
What actions are our Congress people taking to address illegal initiatives in the government specific to those?
Elon Musk doesn't actually get to make any government decisions.
Liar.
People in the administration, and they make the decisions. That is how it works. So I don't get to fire people in the executive branch. I mean, we've just been talking about this. But yes, we control the purse, and that really matters. That's why I talked about the CR. We just funded all of your programs till the end of the year. Okay, I'm a very patient person. I keep my cool really well, but I'm just going to make one more plea. If you treat us the same way for showing up as you treat people who don't show up, you're creating a disincentive. If we can do this,
do your job!
And I am answering questions so what are we doing to make sure Doge doesn't do anything illegal? We're holding on to the purse strings.
BS! Moderators are deleting questions.
Department of Education, which I imagine some of you are concerned about, talking about that. And when it comes to that, as a state legislator for 10 years, the education responsibility is moms and dads and local school teachers and local school boards. And the idea that we in Washington, D.C. to tell us how to educate our children, to me, is laughable for the 50 years that Title I funding and special education and free school lunch. Those funds need to go. Those funds need to continue in perpetuity. But all the rest of it, where the Federal Department of Education is telling our teachers how they should teach our children. I think it's been misguided for many years. So when it comes to that, I want that money that would be spent on the Federal Department of Education. I want it spent right here in the state of Utah. I want our teachers to get a salary increase, and I want parents and power so they can teach their children. So the Federal Department of Education is redundant at best and unnecessary approach. And I'm all for seeing those redundant programs go away so that we can do two things. One is state sovereignty and individual sovereignty, where we can actually direct things like education and make sure that we're moving in the right direction there. And number two, we can actually improve our deficit. So that's my response to the question. Thank you so much. Did you have more on that before we go to the next question? All right, let's go to the next one.
Adequately answered that one.
So the answer is nothing to address.
I can't hear the question. Just wait a second.
With the ongoing detention of the
Hold on, I still can't hear the question. So turn the microphone up or something so that we can.
Thank you. Okay, with the ongoing detention of Mahmoud Khalil, a legal U.S. resident, what are you doing to protect free speech and ensure due process for all
This is a good question. I was actually at dinner on Saturday night in Salt Lake City, and somebody stopped me and asked this question. They said, do you believe in free speech? And I absolutely do. And this is a really, like, the lawyer in me kind of loves this question because we have two free speech issues operating in tension. I've talked with students, Jewish students at Columbia, who are afraid to walk across campus because of who they are. That is also a free speech issue. So on this one, I am going to wait and watch the courts play this out because we have two free speech issues operating in tension right now, and this is who we are as Americans.
There's no charges against it. What is being held? What about that?
In this country, you should
Due process.
Due process is the court playing it out.
Then why is he in Louisiana?
I just want it noted for everyone in the room that I would never talk to any of you the way you're yelling at me right now. And
Do your job.
Sir, this young man is out of control.
What? Free speech!
Did you have more to say on that?
I just want to say, when we have students who are afraid to participate in campus life, we have to make sure we're protecting them.
Like LGBTQ students? Students of color?
Anti-Semitism is unacceptable. If there's anybody in this country that's going to persecute Jewish people because of their heritage, then they should be deported. So, anti-Semitism at Columbia University is entirely unacceptable. And I will stand firmly against that because those kind of racist efforts are never going to be acceptable in my mind. The second thing is that not follow. Going through due process right now, and he should, if he's affiliating with terrorists, then his green card is You are actually supporting this fellow. That's nice to know. He's going to go through
due process.
What he's done. But if he is anti-Semitic and affiliated with terrorists, we don't know that until we look at him.
Why is he in Louisiana? Next question. The answer is due process. Look, let me just...
We're supporting.
We have a Would you feel differently if it were women who were afraid to walk across campus?
What the?
Would you feel differently if it were African-Americans who were afraid to walk across campus? We have to make sure that students participate in campus life.
I would like to say one thing. A lot of us in this room came here today to hear what they have to say, and we're not listening. So if you actually want to hear what they're having to say, then we need to listen and be quiet. No, I'm not kidding.
I'm reading a question. Thank you. We share thousands of constituents. This is from State Senator Nate Lewin. So my inbox is full of concerns about loss of protections and funding for the environment, education, etc. What are you doing?
Waste, fraud, and abuse is why we look for that, because that money is being thrown away in unacceptable programs like the $25 million that went to Sesame Street in Iraq is I just say, bring that money back. Let's focus on the
Oh my God!
We're investing in making sure that America's first. That I'm a big fan of worldwide consideration. We should love and help everybody that we can. The more taxes that are in your pockets, the more money you have to send off to Iraq to help support Sesame Street if you want to. But the reality is that we need to make sure that we're our own houses in order. And right now, the reason why we're at $37 trillion in debt is that we've not been responsible.
Yeah, we do.
And as a result, we're spending money off in foreign lands on things that may or may not be meritorious. And in this case, our grandchildren will be paying this back with economic disaster. And I'm very invested in the future. I'm looking 50 and 100 years in the future and trying to make sure that today our house is in order so we can make sure that our grandchildren and great-grandchildren are in a good spot. So nonsense spending, I'm trying to draw that back in. If it's meritorious, and I'll just say my voice is a little hoarse as well, and I've spent all day listening to people that were talking to me about these various issues. I'm grateful to hear you as well. But one of these people is a doctor who is aware of how this money is being spent in Africa to help reduce tuberculosis spread. And most of you probably know that tuberculosis not only is a drug-resistant organism, but in addition to that, if people don't take their medicine, they continue to spread the disease. So this doctor and I were talking about that program. I asked him which one it was in USAID, which has been significantly cut. And I want to make sure that those programs that are meritorious are held in front of Congress, and I'll advocate for those, so we can make sure that these programs that are soft power are useful for us and also great help to people whose lives depend on it. HIV programs, where people are not getting access to their antiretrovirals, which if they're off those for 3 or 4 weeks, they go into AIDS and within 9 to 12 months they're dead. And not only that, so these are things that I'm hearing as of today, and I want to make sure that those programs function. I believe that when it comes to HIV prevention, so most of you know, if you take your antiretrovirals and you have a woman has pregnancy and she has the baby, that baby won't have HIV. But if she doesn't take the medicine, then the baby, without any more effort than just being born, it has HIV and it translates into a child over time. So that program needs to be preserved. I asked this doctor, which program is it, what's the name of it, and how do I make sure that I as your servant and advocate, can go to those that are making sure that money continues to go forward. So I believe there are meritorious programs and things like USAID, and I want to make sure that the nonsense goes away. So that's how I start
part of his question was about what we're doing to protect the environment. And my background's all in natural resources. I've spent my whole adult life working in this area, and I have a really easy answer for this. We need to get our environmental permitting streamlined, because right now we're spending a lot of tax dollars just deciding whether we're going to do things. We already know how to protect the environment. We can do it. We can do it a lot. I do believe in conservation. I was a conservationist for 12 years.
Not anymore?
We can. Well, it's not my job title anymore. Now I'm a congresswoman. We can make good environmental decisions a lot faster and with a lot less expense than what we're making them right now. Government efficiencies aren't getting us better outcomes. They're just costing us money. If we can get rid of the efficiencies, we can spend more of those dollars on environmental causes. We need clean air and water.
Next question. By the way, tell me when I said hi. I've flown next to him on the airplane, and we just visited about a month ago.
Stop wasting time.
Tell him he doesn't need to ask a question. He's got my phone number.
Will do. Okay, so I'm going to read the next question. So what Doge has done has made our public lands severely understaffed for the upcoming tourist season. Why have you not done more to protect Utah's public land?
So I feel like this question has been asked and answered twice, but it's a good one for me, so I'm going to keep answering it. When they laid off the probationary employees, I called the White House and said, I think that was probably the wrong way to do it. And we had a very productive conversation, and they rolled back that order, and they didn't fire everybody. You're welcome.
Next question.
Can you hear me now? Okay. All right, given the IRS brings in $5 to $12 for every dollar spent, why do you support slashing their workforce, knowing it will cost the government exponentially more and kill Utah?
Agents. What we need is people that are willing to honestly pay their taxes.
Tax the rich! Tax the rich!
And I want to see them go, and if you want to pay your taxes, go ahead and pay your taxes.
Elon Musk doesn't.
I'm a big fan of that as well. To make sure these foreign companies pay their share.
I don't know if any of you heard anything he just said. I know this one hits close to home. We have a big IRS center in Hocker. These are Utahns that are losing their jobs, and that's why I said at the beginning, these problems are real. If we are going to get government spending under control, there are going to be real families that have to find a job. There are going to be real revenue streams that dry up. Somebody at the other end of that revenue stream is going to lose something.
Raise revenue! You don't have to cut if you raise revenue!
We cannot tax our way out of $37 trillion.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you can.
Next question. We're out of time.
Okay, we have a quick announcement. We are going to go ahead and dismiss the scouts. So if they want to make their way out.
There's a whole group of Boy Scouts here taking up a whole damn row in the front.
That was awesome. Because they're from Dr. Kennedy's district, he's going to leave and go talk to them. So he's going to take one more question, and then I'll stay for one more after that, so that he'll have a chance to talk to the scouts and they can go before all of you start to go. So don't get too antsy just yet. We're not quite done.
Okay. All right, next question.
Shout it out!
The LDS Church, of which you are devout members, prides itself on charity. Given this, why do you find 2 million in deaths as a result of cutting U.S. aid acceptable?
Woo!
2 million deaths.
Absolutely, I've already addressed that, is that if there are programs that are saving lives in USAID, you better fight for those. So I'm looking for those, and I'm advocating for those. We've also found in USAID a bunch of nonsense going on.
What? Where's the proof? Where's the proof?
Which I think Sesame Street is great, but it should be paid for. Just like if it comes to HIV, tuberculosis, maternal fetal medicine, making sure that those people are healthy.
He's been calling that guy Mr. Outburst over and over.
Desire to make sure and that these programs companies make some costs in my legislative power is to make sure that they understand the importance of this program. So I'm actually, since you get such great audience,
Oh my god, that's so funny.
And I hope we can continue these conversations. They're difficult, but I'll just say that.
Do your job! Shame!
Work with us, God bless you. We're all
Listen to us!
Work with us!
At what point are you going to stand up and do something? That's the question I want to know.
Well, I'm going to stand up right now, and I'm going to take the last question.
Okay. Last question. All right, our last question
Thank you.
Since when is it okay to deport people without due process? As members of Congress, where is the oversight and outrage to this constitutional order?
But I'm happy to answer again. It's not okay to deport people without due process. Just because you don't like what was decided doesn't mean there wasn't due process.
Bullshit! Bullshit! Bullshit!
Is that funny? One more question. I'll do one more question to that one thing.
Is there anything Trump has done during his second term
here we go.
you disagree with? If so, what would it take for you to publicly oppose him?
Woo! Woo!
So I try to operate by this principle with everyone in my world, where you rebuke privately, praise publicly, but I will give you an example. I think the "Long Live the King" memes were tasteless. And I don't like them, and I've said that.
One follow-up, just one follow-up. Do you share a concern that we're heading toward an authoritarian society? Do you share a concern that we're careening toward an authoritarian country? We're slamming it. We're going to slam it right into the mouth. I just want to know if you share a concern. I don't care about impeachment. I just want to know if you share a concern.
I've stood up here and answered questions for an hour. I'm going to make an exception and answer this one. But I asked everyone to submit questions and not to yell.
But this is the elephant in the room. Yeah.
I am going to answer the question. This is a hot crowd. Yes, I do have a concern that if we don't get the executive branch under control, we drift towards authoritarianism. This is what I was running before, when Biden was the president, I had the same concern. I'm on to everyone else. What are you doing now? What are you doing about it now? I answered the question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering that.
You're welcome. Before you all go, look, I knew not everyone was going to come here and agree with everything I said tonight, and I knew you were going to like all my questions. I just want to end one more time with, I do appreciate you coming and participating. I remember when I felt like I had no way of telling anyone in Congress how I felt about the things they were doing, and I was furious. And there was no outlet for that, because I didn't know where to go to get questions answered. So I hope, even if you hated everything I said tonight, even if you hate me, and you hope I get hit by a bus tonight, I hope you at least appreciate that there is a place you can come and express your feelings. We talked a lot about the First Amendment. You do have institutions that protect us, and they are functioning. Thank you for being here. I'm out of time. I'm going to leave. But I really appreciate all of you are willing to be here, even if you're angry, and even if you knew you weren't going to like my answers.
7 minutes left. Good point. "7 minutes early, leaving with police." You guys rock. Thank you for watching. This was technically illegal. They told us not to do this, but whipped it out anyways. I'll see y'all soon.